Welcome to Sex, Race, and Money with me, Jenny Lewis. Are you someone who wants to change patterns of unhealthy behavior? Do you want to learn the personal truth of who you really are and be more of that person every day? Do you want to have more connection and intimacy with your friends and loved ones? Are you ready to talk honestly and freely about what life is really like? Then this is the show for you, because it's dedicated to helping us cut through the bullshit and look at and love what is truly ourselves, our deeply complex, non-conforming, beautifully human selves. We'll hear from everyday people and top experts, and I look forward to sharing this journey with you. I'm a lawyer turned life coach helping real women heal around the topics of sex, race, and money. To stay connected to the show and never miss an episode, please subscribe and join our online community at Sex, Race, and Money with me, Jenny Lewis, or at the website, jennylewiscoaching.com. All right. So today we have a very special guest with me. This is Liv Pavlov, and she is a tantrika and a sex and intimacy coach. And she's going to share with us about her life and her journey. And we're going to focus today specifically around sex. A lot of it will have to do with other topics, but that will be the focus today. It'll be fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's going to be really good to get to know her. Yeah. Welcome, Liv.
Thank you, Jenny. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's wonderful to be here. For my own life, my explorations about sex and intimacy have been the area that I've done my most personal development and my most internal growth. So it's really a privilege to get to share about that and give whatever we can to the people that are going to watch and to each other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I in particular am curious and really grateful to learn from you in this topic. I know a little bit about your journey and I want to learn a lot more. I feel like I'm in a place of really moving into relationships in different ways that that I've been comfortable doing before. We can talk a little bit more in depth about that later, but I think first and foremost, let's just give us an introduction how you got here, like the highlights of your life and what you feel is important.
Sure. So I was born in Indiana and spent most of my life living there and feeling very unhappy and unfulfilled in my relationships, my education, my social life, and kind of having this conundrum, like there are all these boxes I should fit in and I don't feel like I fit in any of them, but I'm going to try to force myself to do what I'm supposed to do. So in my third year of college, I had this really cute professor and ended up getting married within a few months of dating. And culturally, he was from Mexico. So living together and having sex before you're married and things like that weren't accepted. So we kind of had this fork in the road to get married and stay together or break up. And he gave me a lot of security and care that I'd never had or never given myself. So I said, okay, let's try this. Let's try marriage. So I was married for almost 5 years, and in that time learned more about myself and did some exploring about how I wanted to live life. And we ended up having really different views after those 5 years. I wanted a lot of freedom and spontaneity and travel, and he wanted a lot of stability and routine every day. And so at the end of 2016, I left that marriage, and since then I've been exploring non-monogamy. So I went inside and searched my heart for how I wanted to relate and how I wanted relationships to look. And I realized I didn't want just one partner and didn't know how that could be possible, but have learned a lot about that as that time's gone on. Met a good teacher of mine named Ed, who I'm sure I'll talk more about as we're here today, and started to learn from him about Tantra, and then went on to do some trainings and start giving Tantra sessions. So that's sensual touch combined with energy work. And just started practicing that with myself, and then was able to start doing that with others. And so 2.5 years later, after going from being married and living in a house that I owned and working a 9-to-5 job, I'm now pretty much totally nomadic and have several lovers, and I'm providing what I feel like is my heart's calling in the world. So I would say that transformation for me was unthinkable 2.5 years ago. And now I'm really present to that. My imagination is the limit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful journey, and we talked in the podcast just about, what is it that causes us to move into a direction that is, I think on the whole of the United States is atypical. I find in my own way, doing the thing that's atypical or that I was not taught to do is it takes a lot of courage. And I also, there's that, you spoke about it, like how you checked in with yourself to see what it is you wanted in relationship. And, tell us more about that process, the process of moving into your personal expression, separate from anything you might have been taught in Indiana.
Yeah. So when I left my marriage, I went from having what seemed like everything, multiple cars, a house, a lot of structure. Like I knew on any given Tuesday at 6 p.m. exactly where I would be, to this feeling that nothing was certain. So it was like this feeling of total freedom. And it took getting to a point where I was crying at my desk every day out of how unhappy I was in my life to, to be that, I would say, desperate for a change. So I'd say that was the first key, was getting really, really unsatisfied and feeling totally empty. And then going from that to giving myself a blank slate. So I also did a course called the Landmark Forum right around that same time. And that course is about getting you back to that blank slate kind of state. And in there, I looked at a lot of my beliefs about myself and what did I deserve in life and what was I capable of. And I saw that everything I'd ever put my mind to up to then, like going to a PhD program, getting married, buying a house by the time I was 25, those were all things I'd said I wanted at some point, and they'd all happen. So in that course, I sat down and I just did some writing and some reflecting about, okay, how have I loved over time in my life? And I looked back to when I was an early teenager, and I saw that some of my first experiences with boys or with dating, this question would come up of, oh, I like Drew and I like Brent. How do I pick? And in meeting Ed, my teacher, he lives a very unconventional life, and I would say that he's non-monogamous, and he was one of the first people that I saw doing what I had wanted to do since I was a teenager. So I spoke with him recently, and I said I actually think he gave me permission of a sense in just who he is and how he lives in the world to explore how I wanted to relate. So I just began to practice when I would meet people. I would say at first very awkwardly, I'm not interested in being exclusive, or I'm interested in dating multiple people. And that was really hard at first. I was really afraid of hurting people or being rejected. And that practice with getting no's, or, having to say no to people who said, well, I want to only date you. I would say, well, you could, but I'm going to date other people. It was, it went from that kind of permission to very awkward practice to then just with practice getting more comfortable with those conversations.
Yeah, that practice, the practice of asking and receiving answers is a really tricky one. Yeah. Go ahead.
I did two really great exercises that helped me a lot in that. The first guy that I started relating with non-monogamously, we agreed to create something ongoing, and I was just on the phone with him yesterday afternoon, so this is going on 2 years of still having this relationship. It was from something where we were very primary to each other to now it's not a friendship. I would say there's a lot of love and romance and sexuality still, but we don't have regular plans together or see each other a lot. Mm-hmm. So his name's Christopher, and we were talking at the beginning, and I said, I want to get more comfortable with approaching new people. And he said, okay, let's do this challenge to kiss a stranger a week. So for almost a year, I would have this challenge to kiss one person that I didn't know per week. And so I had the funniest places at the swimming pool or in line at the airport waiting to go through security. And I just got in the practice of asking people, hey, could I kiss you? And I was about 90% effective probably, you know? So that one I got a lot of yeses. Mm-hmm. And that practice was great. And I would recommend that for anybody who's looking to get more comfortable with approaching or being physical with people. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That one was a fun one. And then the other one was this, I don't remember the name of the man who started it, but it was something like called this no challenge. So you were supposed to ask for quite outlandish things, like ask a stranger for hundreds of dollars or ask to get on the intercom at a Costco store and make an announcement or request a ride or a plane ticket to some faraway place. And there's a list of these 40 questions online, and the idea is that you'll most likely get a no because they're more than most people are willing to do. And a good friend of mine, Paige, brought that one to my attention, and so I was practicing on that also in 2017, around the time that this all started. And just getting that no's are nothing personal.
Yeah, that's a really important growth step. I had some practices around that too. I like what you've offered here, though. I might tweak them a bit, try some new things. But yeah, going out and asking. I think my practice was going out and asking for money, like different variations of money, because it was relating to a money practice I had. And also in starting my business, it was important to ask for money because I'd just been salaried, and so the money there is no asking for money. You know, it's very rote and planned and everything. But the vulnerability of opening yourself and asking for something and tuning into what it is you want and how to ask is a really important way, I think, not only to open to the world, but to open to yourself, right? And knowing what it is you want in the way that led me, may have led you out from a life of rote and tradition into something much bigger and deeper and more vulnerable and fulfilling.
Yeah. It seems like when I'm working with men now in my tantra sessions or in sex and intimacy coaching, one of the biggest topics that men bring as kind of a complaint about the feminine or about women is I feel like women never ask me for what they want or don't tell me what they want. And it seems like there's really something for me to offer for women and for the feminine about how to step into that, really coming from a feminine place, but saying, I desire this, I would like this, can you provide it? And then giving that opportunity to the masculine. That's something I haven't explored yet, but it's really, I know something I needed to learn and I think is important for the feminine.
It really is. I think, and there's so many little pieces of that I've had to work through in order to get it done. There's the like, for instance, someone will ask me, I'll think about, I want to have sex, and then I remember the practice I have is okay, so I want to have sex, but what is it I want specifically? And then, there was an edge where I was just like, I don't know. I really don't know. Like, maybe I do it in the same way I've always done it. Maybe I want something different, but it's the importance of feeling in. And then there's the speaking of the thing, which is super vulnerable, you spoke about. And then there's the receiving of the answer, which I think for me is the most sensational part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us more about your practice of working with people, and I think there's that, and then there's the energetic of it that I'm specifically interested in. But let's talk first about like how you got into working with people, and then we can talk about the offering.
Yeah.
Because I think it informs a lot about what sexuality is.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So my background in education was originally in psychology. So I was very interested always in people and trying to understand humanity and how do we work. And I was doing that in a very heady, intellectual way at first in life. So I studied psychology, which did give me a lot of tools that I find come up from time to time about listening and communication and things like that. But the path I went with that at first was very data heavy. So I was working in an office and running reports and working with executives and doing things like that. And this was the time in life when I started to be really unfulfilled. And I kept having this thought, I want to do something hands-on. I want to do something physical in the world. And I didn't know what it was. So after I left my marriage, I got this inspiration. A lot of how life occurs for me is like I ask a question to the universe. Maybe it's myself. Maybe I just speak it out loud. Maybe it's God. It's whatever you want to call it. And I'll get an answer either I'll hear it auditorily, I might write, and it'll come through to me. People will come up to me and give me ideas in the world and repeat messages. It comes in all kinds of ways. So I put this idea out there. How can I serve and what can I offer? And I got this answer about body work, about doing something around healing. So I thought, okay, well, what's been great for me? And I had really good experiences with acupuncture and Reiki, and kind of a combination of those. So I started to visit acupuncture schools and was not interested, didn't feel good. It was like 2 to 4 years, and I thought, no, I want to do this now. And so then a friend came and said, there's a Reiki course online. Do you want to take this course? And I said, sure. So I'll give it a go. I wasn't super keen on it, but ended up taking the course and loved it. And so within a few months, I did this attunement and then could start doing Reiki and had to practice on people and had people feeling amazing after their sessions, and felt for myself a difference practicing on me. So I was doing Reiki. I started to incorporate massage, which was not something I was ever formally trained in, actually, but just started to offer it as well, and would say I'm not trained in massage, but I'd love to provide this. And through word of mouth, friends on Facebook, I started to increase my customers. And interestingly, it was mainly drawing in men. And in the sessions, I started to have people ask me, do you ever do sensual massage? And I said, well, no, not really, and was very resistant to that at first. And in my own life, with my explorations of non-monogamy, I started to see that some of the people that would come to me in the world, not for actual intercourse, but for dates or for some kind of touch, after the experiences we would have together, they would have breakthroughs about finding somebody who was providing what they really wanted in relating, or starting and ending jobs, or healing physical illnesses. And I realized, something's happening out of this combination of the energy work with this sexual charge. And so I went to Ed, my teacher, and I was talking with him about this, and he's trained in Tantra. And he said, well, basically that's what you're offering and practicing now. And like, if you want to cultivate that, you could. And so I ended up,
yeah. So the offering was of change, or of moving into something new.
I would say it was asking what's not working, allowing space for that to be said, for people to be just like they were and totally accepted. And then in that acceptance, then they would go out in life and things would move.
So it was the holding space of people exactly as they were that allowed for it to carry through into their day-to-day life outside of the practice.
Yeah.
And the actual offering, the physical offering, was massage and Reiki and Tantra.
And that's what I would say has evolved as time's gone on. So I've done trainings now in it's called yoni massage and lingam massage. So that's massage with the sexual organs for men and for women. And so that's what I primarily offer now. And so there's
talking during it.
talking.
There's an exchange of so it's a good mix of your psychology and Reiki and Tantra. And,
There's always an intention set about what people want to get out of the session or what they want to manifest or move at the beginning. And I think that's the most powerful spot right there, is that speaking what's wanted. Again, like we were talking about earlier, right? And then having room for everything that a person is, just being fully seen and witnessed like they are, and then moving that life force energy, moving the sexual energy into the intention, and then going out in the world with that.
Beautiful, yeah. Can you speak more about the life force energy, like what it means and what it does?
So there's something that's growing our fingernails and beating our hearts and giving us the idea of when we wake up in the morning, okay, I'm hungry, okay, I need to, move through my day. There's something that propels us. I'd say that all of that is the life force energy. And in my view of life, that's primarily originating in our sex center. And that has something to do with how we come into the world, right? The womb in the woman and the seed of a man, that's the center of where this energy comes from to create human life. And that's where it gets passed on. So that's my view of what that energy is. It's called, same thing I would say is called chi or prana, depending on the teaching and the tradition. But with a tantric focus, the idea is about how to unlock that energy in the body. So not just having it be centered in the sex organs for procreation, but how to move that into the rest of the body. And similar ideas with breath work, qigong, anything like that. All these practices are doing the same movement.
Same thing. Yeah. So it's a really. I'll just repeat it back to me. It sounds like the voice, the intention of the voice, and the opening to like truth and desire we spoke about too, and aligning that with the life force, the opening of the life force in a really potent and powerful way. It really does allow for different and more powerful expression, like a truer expression after that experience with you.
Yeah. And I think it's important too that people don't have to believe in energy or be spiritual or believe in God or anything to experience Tantra or to do a session with me. And I would say all that's important is just the talking and the being honest and showing up for it. I don't think that belief piece really is needed at all.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's good to know. All right. Yeah. Anything more you would like to share about your experiences there or what it brings to your clients? Or what it's brought to you?
Yeah. Connection is the word that comes to mind. So it seems like that's the number one thing that people come to me looking for. So more than physical touch, more than fulfilling sexual desire or fantasies, it seems like connection is what people are really looking for. And the way that we live life right now as modern humans we wake up and go to sleep usually in a box that has at most one other person up to 4, if you think about your typical family, right? It's mom and dad and kids, but a lot of people, it's just them alone. And then we go and we spend our days somewhere and there's some number of people, maybe we're in a cafe, but nobody's, you talk to the person at the counter and then you go sit down by yourself. And so it seems like there's something really missing about the way that humanity has created our daily life right now in terms of connection that's fundamental to, I think, what life really was meant to be for us when we're in these bodies. So that's part of where my commitment to non-monogamy in my own life comes from, is including more people in my intimate, close circle, really expanding that. It's just something that's important to me, providing connection and looking at how to bring that into how I live every day.
Yeah, that intimacy, I think, is a really sweet one to talk about. It's one that I think there are like 2 tracks in my mind when I think about intimacy. There's, especially as I build in my sex practice myself, it's a methodical pace that I'm taking, and I think you just hit right on the spot of why it is that way. It's because there's a part of me that finds a real deep ease in connecting with people, and intimacy, and that can be just in using my voice, that can be in using touch, but if in my mind someone says to me, oh, you need to connect sexually with this person, I'll there'll be a wall that comes up, even though the connecting with someone with voice and touch is very easy for me. Like as soon as the word comes up, then a whole flood of ideas and wrongness will come in that I have to navigate, right? So it's interesting. It's causing me to really, like, when I look at sexuality as this intimacy that I do easily, when I include that, it allows me to really weave them together in a way that allows me, and that lets me move in with some grace and ease that I don't think I've found otherwise. So it's really helpful, the way that you break down what the life force is, the impact of the life force on the body. And it'd be helpful for you to talk more about that in your own intimate relationships, just to really give breath to this definition of what sexuality is.
Yeah. So are you saying that when you can bring intimacy to sexuality, you can let that wall down?
It's kind of like I can't think of an analogy. It's an easy way in. It's a familiar way in. It's like at my grandparents' house, we used to all go in through the side door. Like that, and I've done that many times. So it'd be easy to enter the house through the side door because I've done that many times. Entering the same house through the main door, I haven't done before. And there would be some formality about it, and they hated when people came through the front door, so there was a whole bunch of stigma there, and so it'd be like, so there'd be a whole lot of shame and guilt, and I know that they're going to give me shit for going through the front door, and like that. It's kind of like that, even though I get to exactly the same place.
Feels really different. It seems like in my world, it's almost like I did a lot of practices, I would say, to purposefully get comfortable going through the front door. So like I really took on being open when people would come into my world who are interested in being sexual. For me, it seems like for most of life, and it's still there's this line for me about actual penetration, like having somebody enter my body. But everything else up to that, I would say, seems very easy for me to engage with somebody, and kind of like just any person that would present themselves that I felt some connection with, I could be interested in exploring up to that point with them. So part of my journey since leaving my marriage is being open to engaging with people and sharing physical touch and sexual touch. And for myself, kind of like breaking down my stories and my barriers about that front door, right? Like just going straight in to having some kind of a sexual connection with somebody. I have found that play parties, so sex parties, are a great place to explore that. Because there's kind of there's no ambiguity about that. People there are generally willing to participate in some way. And I really had to get comfortable with that to start doing my sessions, And it's funny, this keeps coming to mind. I had a lot of what I would call slut shame for myself, right? About stories of this is bad or good, or I want too much sex, I want not enough sex, something's not right about wanting to experiment with people. And I found in my explorations, my first memory about where this really came up probably goes back before this, but this defining moment, I was in my gynecologist's office and I was 15, and there was a form that I was filling out, right? And it said something like, how many people have you had sex with in the last year? And it's 0, 1 to 2, and then it was like 3 to 5, 5 or more, or something like that. And I think I probably checked the 3 to 5 box, right? And then I had this conversation with my gynecologist, and she was saying something like, you have to be careful and watch out. And I was using protection, and I was really like choosing these opportunities consciously, and I wasn't getting wasted and just having drunk sex. I was like, it was an exploration I was taking on. But I remember after that conversation with her, there was this implied, that's just bad. It's bad to explore with people. It's bad to have sex. You should have one person, basically do monogamy, even when you're a teenager. And I think that was really present with me all through my marriage, even afterwards. And that's been my own journey with myself, to talk to that 15-year-old girl and say, your desires are healthy and you can explore what you like and as you please. And so that's been my journey with the front door. And then what I've found is that for me to really want to engage in intercourse with somebody, I want intimacy to be present. I want love to be present for me and for the other person. And there's a beautiful piece that I read recently about this woman. She writes about, she says, why don't we take a page from the casual sex playbook and see that our hearts are just as safe to share as our bodies? And it's something that I'm really promoting in the world for myself and for others, bringing love and not feeling that has to be something kept apart or kept separate or kept for the one. But
That's really beautifully put. You're just hitting some things that I've really been thinking about a lot lately. And I was talking with someone about sexuality and opening up that way, and the person asked me, what is the reason you won't? And I actually got to the place of saying, well, I don't want to open my heart, interestingly.
Yeah.
And so that heart is that's like the gatekeeper, I think, for me. And really the like going slow and into that intimate place is extremely important. So I think the thing that we are breaking down here is the care with which we connect with each other. Yeah, and the importance of that. There's not a frivolousness about this at all.
Yeah. There's a really fun tool that I like to use with people, and it's energy based. So again, depending on people's beliefs, this might or might not resonate, but it's kind of just an imagination exercise anyway. So there's this all these teachings about energetic penetration in the Tantra tradition, and so what you would often think about energetic penetration with the sex organs, but you can also try it from the heart center or even from the third eye, from the mind center. So if you could just think about merging your center, your heart center or your mind center, whichever one you want to choose, with a person that you're interested in. And sometimes that's a really fun way to kind of take a test drive and see what's that like. Can I feel the other person? Can I feel them in my heart? Am I willing to open my heart to receive them? Even starting with the mind, that's usually the easiest one because we kind of have we're all often, in conversation, we're in each other's mind. And that's a really kind of exciting way to test that connection.
Yeah.
And then also practice opening the heart and without any kind of biological or biochemistry getting activated, which is a big part of what happens with physical intercourse, right? That our biochemicals get activated in a new way. So it creates some bonding. There's no denying that. Yeah.
It is interesting. I think that's a really helpful exercise for me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see how the biochemical does, it's an easy bond with a lot of people, honestly. A lot of people that my mind without this exercise might filter out,
Yeah.
and that's an interesting one too. That's probably a whole nother podcast on that, But
I'm probably not the person to. I'm not a biochemist, but that would be a good one to have.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is that desire for deep connection, and can be had with far more people than I originally thought. Not even going into the physicality of it, but there's the relationships and the opening to myself that I can receive from interacting with people without the filter of who I should and shouldn't is a powerful way to get to know myself and others and connect to the world.
Yeah. I was thinking about this test with trying heart penetration, right? That's kind of a way to pick partners or see if you're aligned with somebody. I know that's something we've talked about before, is when you want to relate with more people, how do you pick who or how many people? Or those are questions I get a lot too. Can we go in that direction?
Yeah, let's go there.
It seems like more than anything on the physical level, shared mentality or shared desire about life and how a relationship could look is probably the most important thing that I think we forget to talk about in the face of really great physical chemistry going on. And it seems like that's where relationships break down, is there's some fundamental mismatch in what's desired. And and I think I'm friends with an author. His name's Jim Sexton. He wrote a book, If You're in My Office, It's Already Too Late, about divorce and why divorces happen. And in almost every story in the book, it comes down to something wasn't communicated up front. Some desire about money or how to live life or how to raise the kids or how to have other partners or not, or when to do it, or do we talk about doing that or not, that it all breaks down. And so, there's conversation to be had and to be normalized around all that, I think, before getting involved with somebody, or even just simply saying, do you want something ongoing or just this exploration? Are you willing to be curious?
Yeah. Setting up what it's going to look like, and even if there's disagreement on those, could be a part of it, as so long as that's part of the agreement.
Yeah, just the known disparity.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think we've covered a lot here.
I think so.
Yeah. Anything more that you feel important to share?
So it seems, all right, what comes to mind is ask your pussy. That's the key phrase
For
that
women.
I want to give women.
Yeah.
Ask your pussy, ask your body about whatever it is. Big life choices, what to wear, what to eat for lunch. Should I have sex with this guy or not? She will always tell the truth. Yeah.
How do you, because I know this body practice is really important. How do you, when I'm running around doing a lot of things, it's difficult to tune in unless I'm very conscious about it. How would you, what would you offer to women who are looking to connect with their bodies more?
I think the simplest way is close your eyes and actually just put a hand on your womb or on your pussy and just kind of close the eyes so you can detach from all this beautiful distracting world out here. And then that physical touch brings awareness to that part of your body. And then the first thing that comes to mind once you've done that, I would say, it's usually that instinctual first thing that pops up.
Yeah.
And then I can get into an argument with her. You know, she'll say, wear that pink dress. And I'll say, no, that wasn't formal enough. Or, it's whatever she says first is the key.
Yeah. I've had many arguments. and then like down the road, it all comes clear. Yeah. The instincts are really powerful. I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
Anything for the men listening?
To trust the instinct of the women in their lives, or find women to go to with that, and to not be afraid of stepping into their power, speaking desire, and really owning masculinity. I think there's been a lot of we've kind of swung far in the direction of almost shaming the masculine or pushing the masculine into a corner, kind of don't be too much, don't be a predator. But there's a really healthy middle to be had with that. So I would just say, own the power that's innately in you.
Yeah, so getting in touch with those instincts as well, like true. Yeah. Yeah. Any practices there?
Edging is a practice, a self-pleasure practice mainly for the masculine. It seems like orgasm for females can be really generative. So that would be another thing I would offer, is to have a daily self-pleasure practice if you're in a female or a male body. And if you're in a male body, to find what's an 8 out of 10 on a 10 being ejaculation and 0 being rest. So find whatever that 8 place is where there's a lot of pleasure and a lot of energy running in the body, and take yourself to that place and then stop the touch or stop the stimulation. Just breathe and let that go back down closer towards a 0, and to build that up and let that disperse as many times as is wanted, rather than going just straight through to an ejaculation. That practice not only prolongs lovemaking, but really has male-bodied people get in tune with their own eros, their own sexuality. What's going on? How does it move? Where does it run?
Yeah, and opening to that life force.
Yeah.
Beautiful advice.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been a beautiful session. We've talked a lot about intimacy, the life force, finding our way to ourselves, knowing our eros, and really tuning in to the truth of our own beings, what it is we want, and sexuality, who it is we want to be in the world, and where that all comes from. And it is innately human. It comes from our instinct. Yeah. We've gotten some good practices and some great advice. Yeah. I'm real happy to have you here.
Thank you.
I hope to see you again.
Thank you. It's been a privilege.
Thank you. Yeah. Is there anything you have going on that you want to share that you would like people to participate in?
The best way to find me is my website, which is oliviapavlov.com, or on Facebook, I'm Liv, L-I-V, Love, Tantra. Yeah, I'd say my main offering are one-on-one sessions. So you can find me on my website or on Facebook to book that.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Good. All right. So, with that said, to stay connected to the show and never miss an episode, please subscribe and join our community at Jenny Lewis Coaching or jlulive.com.